problem. Also consider the relationship between all the elements in the problem. Tease out the legal issues. Then compile a list of the key terms which you're going to use in order to search the sources.
Having analysed the problem, you should be able to identify all the options open to your client and how many legal issues are relevant to each of the options you've identified.
When you're analysing a problem, it's helpful to break that problem down into separate issues. The two issues which you're most likely to encounter will be either issues of substantive law or procedural law. What we mean by substantive law is really black letter law, and an example would be whether the contract exists between the parties. Procedural law, as the name suggests, is really all to do with the procedure. So for example, if you want to sue someone, how you go about issuing the claim form would be an example of procedural law. There's also the law of evidence. The law of evidence you'll probably encounter less often, but it's essentially all to do with the gathering of facts. And if you at some point present a case in court, it then becomes quite important to think about the evidence that you have.
Once the issues are identified, you need to decide what the relevant sources will be, and your choice shouldn't be confined to UK sources. You need to think about the EU aspects of the problem and the human rights angle. These are very important. And in every case, you need to make sure your information is up to date.
It's crucial when you're doing research to make sure that your answer is absolutely up to date. And there are various ways in which that can be done. Perhaps the best way of making sure you're up to date, again, is by use of the online databases, as they obviously tend to be updated much more frequently than the hard copy sources.
So as you can see, by adopting a structured approach to your work, you will have a greater chance of being successful with your research. So with all this in mind, let's go back to Jabeen and see how she gets on.
I'd like some information about cocaine, the sentencing, deportation and conviction. Would you be able to help me with that?
Sure. The best place to start is Halsbury's Laws.
Okay.
So Jabeen's been directed to probably the most important secondary source as far as English law is concerned, Halsbury's.
The Halsbury Service lies at the heart of legal research. It's comprised of three elements. Halsbury's Laws of England is a commentary on the laws of this country. It doesn't reproduce acts or cases. It's a commentary with copious footnotes which will lead you and reference you to acts and cases. Halsbury's Statutes reprints the statutes in force at the present time, with copious commentary and notes of explanation. The third element is Halsbury's Statutory Instruments, which reprints a selection of secondary legislation of use to the practitioner, with some notes.
Halsbury's Laws is really a little bit like an encyclopedia of the law. It's split up into a number of different volumes, and all recognised areas of the law will have an entry in Halsbury's. So particularly if you've been asked to look at an area you haven't encountered before, then Halsbury's Laws is very often a good place to start your research.
But it's important to identify the three elements of Halsbury's, and Jabeen has gone straight to Halsbury's Statutes.
Okay, so I found Halsbury's Statutes. I'm looking for criminal law, so that's Statutes Volume 12. I'll look for drugs. Okay, this just deals with drug trafficking offences, so that's not really what I'm after. Looking for more importing cocaine.
It would have been more effective for the student to have initially looked at Halsbury's Laws before going to a more specific text like Halsbury's Statutes.
So if you're not sure exactly what you want, then Halsbury's Laws is probably the best place to start. When Jabeen couldn't find what she was after in the statutes, she was able to find the correct reference in Halsbury's Laws, then go back to the statutes for detailed information. You'll find there's a three-stage procedure in using Halsbury's effectively. First, use the Statutes Index to locate the correct statute and find which volume it's in. Then check the cumulative supplement for the particular page and paragraph in that volume to see if there have been any changes. And finally, check the Loose Leaf Noter Up service to find out if there have been any changes since the cumulative supplement was published. Given that one of the main advantages of the Internet is the ease with which it's updated, would Jabeen have saved herself a lot of time if she'd just gone there first?
Online can be quicker if you know what you're looking for and you're going straight there. The online legislation service does not compare exactly with the printed Halsbury statutes because it doesn't contain the annotations to the acts. There are notes at the bottom of the screen which tell you whether the act has been amended, but the annotations are not nearly as full as the printed version, so in some cases the printed version would be a better option. As far as Halsbury's Laws online goes, that's nice and easy to use. It's laid out the same way as the printed version. But the one thing is that it doesn't have, again, is an index.
So this is what Jabeen found. The relevant sources in relation to the penalties for importing cocaine are the Misuse of Drugs Act 1971, Section 3, Subsection 1, and the Customs and Excise Management Act 1979, Section 170, Subsection 2. The maximum penalties Carl could face are, on a summary conviction, a fine of up to £5,000, or 3 times the value of the goods, whichever is the greater, and on indictment, an